everyone, and welcome to Dallas Hoops Fancast. I'm your host, Sydney, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Martin Myers.
Oh, hey guys.
Remember, you can follow the show on Twitter at Dallas Hoopscast. I'm at _Sydney Myers. The website is DallasHoopscast.com. You can listen to new episodes and read exclusive articles. We have a new article up on players the Mavericks should target for sign-in trades. Thankfully, like 90% of them were signed as soon as I published it. I published it like 2 hours before free agency started, but there's still some good ones on there. Bogdan Bogdanovic is one of them, so we can talk about that. And then there's another one on other just general free agents I think they should target. Anyway, so that's the site. YouTube, the channel is Dallas Hoops Cast. We post the pod there, but I also post short clips. So if you're not into like 45-minute episodes, you can go to the YouTube channel and you'll get like 3 to 5 minute clips of basically the best parts of the show, which, but also listen to the whole 45 minutes because it's all good. Okay. Free agency started and things are happening. The Mavericks made a trade for Josh Richardson from the Philadelphia 76ers. We're going to share our thoughts on him, but I wanted to hear something from a guy or from somebody that's been watching Josh Richardson that knows more than just, watching the highlights on YouTube like we've been doing. So I talked to Jason Blevins from thepaintedlines.com. He's a Sixers reporter, and so he knows the team. He's in the locker room. So there's an interview. I'm going to lead with that, and he talks about Richardson's strengths and weaknesses offensively and defensively, what we can expect, what his fit will be like. So let's get to that interview, and then we'll kind of talk about what we think or what we expect from Josh Richardson. Okay, I'm here with Jason Blevins from thepaintedlines.com as well as ESPN Radio. You cover the Sixers, and so I figured you're the perfect person to talk to learn more about Josh Richardson, who the Mavericks just acquired via trade. The first thing I wanted to ask you was actually just how you felt when you first heard that he was getting traded. Were you sad? Were you indifferent? Like, what did you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that we in Philly had a sense that really, even in the bubble, that Josh was probably playing his last year, his only year in Philadelphia. So it wasn't a surprise. I think Dallas had not been on the radar, but when you looked at the deal itself, it really was a talent for fit trade. I think it's a really good destination for Josh, who's a really good guy and a really good basketball player. He is a guy who talked a lot about accountability, and let's face it, the Philadelphia 76ers had a ton of talent, but they didn't fit very well. And so he had been pretty vocal, so not a lot of surprise. I'm pleased that he's going to a situation where I think he can really thrive.
Interesting. Okay, so it sounds like he was liked as a player, which is good. It would be worse if you were like happy to get rid of him or glad to get rid of him, but it sounds like it's not like that at all.
No, not like that at all. I think, a lot of people in Philly were very happy to get out of the Al Horford contract, but Josh Richardson is a player who I think was fairly well appreciated, but also recognized as a poor fit in Philly. The things he does defensively at the point of attack made sense on paper in the summer of 2019 when they traded Jimmy Butler for him. But in practice just didn't quite make sense. He didn't have the point guard skills I think they hoped he had. And he wasn't a good enough knockdown catch and shoot shooter from three to play off of Ben Simmons. But he was universally beloved in Philly, both with his teammates. His coaches were happy with him, and the fans liked him. So there was never any reason to complain about what Josh gave the team.
Okay, so let's get into his skills. You mentioned offense and defense. So let's start with offense. What are his strengths? How does he score? What is he good at?
Yeah, so I think what he's going to really bring the Mavericks team offensively is someone who will attack closeouts. So the key for him is Luka's going to have the ball in his hands, right? If you look at that roster, Luka will have the ball in his hands, probe the defense. If he kicks to Josh is shoots about 35% from three, so he's a credible enough shooter to force a defense to come out at him. But he can then put the ball on the floor, attack a closeout, and get into the teeth of the defense. What he isn't really is a pick and roll initiator. He's not really a point guard. He is much more of a downhill guy. He's sort of your classic old school shooting guard in the sense of the mid 90s to the mid 2000s.
Okay, that's an interesting point. The Mavs do a lot of pick and roll, but really what they need is just a guy that can make plays with the ball, even if it's one-on-one. If you had to think of a player that he's similar to in style, can you think of one? Like maybe not necessarily the same skill level, but just his scoring style.
Sure. So he's your classic sort of 6'6", 2/3 downhill guy. So, you could look at, a less powerful, less explosive version of Russell Westbrook. He is you really have to, he's kind of a throwback player, honestly. He's kind of a guy that, let's say Deion Waiters before he dribbled the air out of the ball. He's not gonna consume a ton of possession time, but he's also not a guy that's super quick decision maker. He's not a guy you want running your offense. But when you have a 6'8", 6'7", 6'8" sort of point guard, he's a good fit next to a guy like that, right?
Okay.
He can get downhill with the ball.
Okay, so would you say he's like a secondary scorer, or is that too much for him? Would you make him like your third option on offense?
Well, I think he's a really good third option when you look at Porzingis and Luka. He's not a guy, I think, he had his max per game was 16 points per game in his last year at Miami. I think he scored 13 or so as a third/fourth option in Philly last year. He's kind of your tertiary option offensively. But on the defensive end, he's pretty versatile and gives you a lot on that end. And I think that's, quite frankly, where Dallas needs someone.
Okay, so let's talk about his defense. How good of a defender is he? What is he like on defense?
Yeah, so he's a 6'6" guy with a 6'10" wingspan. He can defend. He's not a guy that's going to get hunted. He can certainly defend on his own. I don't think he loved the scheme in Philly where there's some complexity to the point of attack rules on pick and roll off screens, on whether you fought through a screen or whether you switched on everything. But he's certainly a credible man defender in anyone under sort of your 4-man style. So you can put him on, guys that are 6'7" or below, and he can be a certainly credible man defender in those areas.
Okay, so I was thinking like in the West, there's guys like Damian Lillard and Westbrook if he stays, Devin Booker, those kinds of guys. Is he good enough to defend that all-star high caliber player, or maybe is he better suited for someone that's not quite as talented as that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Booker, I think he matches up fairly well with. Dame Lillard is really a tough matchup for anyone, but there's a big size disparity and quickness. And I think the other thing, and I was talking to someone else earlier about the bubble makes it so hard to evaluate defense because everyone there, you don't have 20,000 people in the arena, so the distractions are so less. It was hard to guard anyone in the bubble. You see like TJ Warren putting up 50 points. But he's roughly in the same size category as a Devin Booker. I think he would do a credible job on Booker. Dame Lillard, he can just score at so many different levels and get you moving side to side, front and back, in so many dimensions. He's a tough matchup for anyone, but he's probably, if you look at the Mavericks roster, he's probably your best option against a guy like that.
Okay, so it sounds like he's not a lockdown defender, but he's probably the guy that most teams would put on those kinds of players. You talked about him playing with Luka, how it's a good fit. That was one of my questions is what do you think is his ideal role on a team? Either just, from what you know of him, maybe what you know of the Mavs, where do you think he fits in best, or what would be the best use of his skill?
Yeah, I think so Luka pretty much operates at the top, right? The top of the arc.
Yeah.
Breaks a guy down, and I think Josh operates pretty well from the wings and then can attack closeouts on a kick out. The key really is to give him as many simple options as possible. Once he gets into the paint, you want to give him some drop-off options, some dump-off options, so that he's not settling for the 14, 15-foot difficult pull-ups. But really, that's what you're looking at, right? You're looking at an above-the-break kind of player who is a kick-out option that attacks closeouts and puts the opposing defense into scramble mode. That's what you're hoping for. But I want to be clear, like he's not really a point guard, right? So he's certainly a secondary ball handler.
That makes sense. I mean, it makes sense why the Mavs would want him because Luka is obviously running the offense, but what they needed was a secondary ball handler. So it sounds like he fits in that role perfectly. Do you think, I asked some Mavs fans on Twitter what they wanted to know about him. Some of them were concerned about consistency. Was that an issue in Philadelphia?
Well, he had a couple of lingering injuries. I don't think consistent effort or concentration was ever an issue. I never saw that. In my interactions with him, really from the summer, before training camp, through camp, and through the season in the locker room, he's a very even-keeled, very cool customer. I never saw highs and lows emotionally. So while his ability to knock down shots wasn't super consistent, level of effort was always there. Concentration was always there. No, I wouldn't worry about Josh being someone you can't count on night in and night out. He's pretty even-keeled personality.
That's good to hear. It's one thing, like you want a player that's going to contribute on the court, but you don't want to have to deal with a bunch of locker room stuff. It sounds like he's a good locker room guy.
Very good locker room guy. Always available to the media. Took time. Some guys know how to sort of dodge us in that. We get like 25 minutes, right, where players are theoretically available, quote unquote, to us. And some players know how to dodge that by getting massage in the training room or, various ways. Josh was never a guy that did that, right? He always made himself available. He wasn't seeking the spotlight, but, never sort of ducked that. Never heard a bad word about Josh, in the practice facility, about it from a teammate. Coaches were very positive about Josh. Unprompted, they would bring his name up. So I don't think you have a problem at all from a culture standpoint whatsoever. I think he's a really positive culture guy.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, I think my last question, do you think that Josh's game will change any with Luka? Is there any way that you think being in that system will make Josh better? Or should we expect maybe the same numbers or maybe less because of how his role changes? What would you say?
No, I like the fit from a number standpoint. I think you can expect a little bit more. He's probably a 15, 16 point per game guy. His efficiency will probably increase a little bit because Luka has a different gravity than Ben Simmons. I think they have similar passing ability, but Luka can hit that James Harden step back that Ben Simmons, quite frankly, just can't, which changes the geometry of the opposing defense. So I think there's some upside to his raw production, but really I think you're going to see the benefits on the other side, where Dallas was trying to just outscore folks last season. I think you've now got a guy who can't be hunted on defense and can sort of be stout on that end. Not a big turnover creator, but I think that the net rating is what you're going to see a benefit to versus the offensive rating. So I think he's gonna help you in subtle ways. I was able to see. I think I saw Luka in person 3 times last season. I was in Dallas for a game, so he's certainly a unique talent in the NBA. I think Josh is the perfect secondary piece in the backcourt for him.
Interesting. Okay, well, those are all good things to hear. I like that, and I like hearing that what he brings on defense because, like you said, the Mavs. They had some good, Dorian Finney-Smith did a good job. Obviously, Kristaps is a high blocks guy, but they really did need more defense on the perimeter. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Josh can help with that. That's all I've got. That was a lot of great info. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. Do you want to tell people where they can find you if they need Sixers news or if they want to ask more questions about Josh Richardson, where they can find you online?
Sure. So I'm at on Twitter, J Blevins NBA. On Twitter, we have on our website is thepaintedlines.com. We do sports, NFL, NBA, all 4 major sports plus the MLS, and our YouTube channel, The Painted Lines. We do a bunch of draft content. We do a bunch of NBA stuff for our YouTube. So The Painted Lines is our platform, and appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for being on. So based on that interview, I think that Josh Richardson is in a way the kind of player that that you need next to Luka, a playmaking guard that is a good defender. Now, I don't think Josh Richardson is like at the level that we wanted. I mean, obviously he's not Bradley Beal or Victor Oladipo, or as a playmaker, he's not Zach LaVine, as from the point of view of the way that I view Zach LaVine. But he's the style of player that you need. So just that in itself, I think will help. He can make plays with the ball. Jason brought out how he's not really a pick and roll player, which kind of was a little bit of concern for me because the Mavericks run so many pick and rolls. But honestly, just if he can make plays with the ball, he described him as like a downhill, old school kind of guard where you can use him as an outlet and then he can then attack the closeout and make a play for himself or for others. So I think that's great. Obviously, Hardaway is a really good scorer, but it's the way that he scores that we talk about. Hardaway is really a catch and shoot, maybe 1-2 dribble pull up. Like he can make plays, driving into the lane, but it's just not his strength. And so we've talked about how a guy that can make plays with the ball is better, even if the numbers are the same, the output, it's the way they score it that has a bigger impact. And Josh Richardson is that kind of player offensively.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I'm going to get too excited about his playmaking ability for others. I do think that he can attack a closeout. So because he is a good three-point shooter, last year his percentages weren't very good, and I think a lot of that had to do with the spacing. We watched some highlights on YouTube, and every time he drove to the lane,
it's a clogged lane.
Yeah, because you had Embiid and you had Simmons, you had no spacing.
Yeah, Jason talked about that, how like with playing next to Ben Simmons, there's not a lot of spacing, so that kind of hurt Richardson offensively.
So I think his offensive game will improve when he comes to Dallas, just obviously because most players do.
Yeah.
Just because of the system, the spacing that the Mavericks run.
And Luka.
And Luka's out there, and Porzingis, it just creates so much attention. So I think he'll be more of a catch-and-shoot 3-and-D guy that can occasionally attack a closeout, whereas Hardaway, if he doesn't get that open three, he typically has to pass it back out and rerun it. But with Josh Richardson, I think there's more opportunity. If a closeout comes, he can attack it and make a play.
Yeah, I think, and that's a good word, to attack it offensively. He can actually take advantage of that and make the defense pay.
Whereas Hardaway doesn't do that. Now, Hardaway is still very valuable because of his ability to hit catch-and-shoot threes at a high level. He can rise up above the defender, so if your closeout is late, he still has the ability to get the shot off.
Right.
And he really does just play well playing with Luka. He does. So I think it adds the defensive guard. Really, it's DeLon 2.0, because this is what I think they wanted DeLon Wright to be. He was projected to be this on-ball defender, shutdown guy who can make plays, and he just couldn't do either one of those. The one thing he was really good at was help side defense. But he was too slow laterally. He can't stay in front of the quicker guards, and he couldn't make a play because life depended on it.
DeLon Wright struggled with his decision-making, and so that was another thing Jason brought out in this interview, was that you have to keep Josh, his decisions simple. So because he kind of struggles with that. So again, like you said, I think his biggest impact will be defensively, which we'll talk about. But there's a potential that he can help with not even like taking some of the offensive load off of Luka, but just to be an option.
Yeah, I don't think the Mavs got that guy this year in free agency. I think they improved with Josh Richardson, but I don't think they got that secondary playmaker. I think the majority of the offense is going to be run through Luka. I think what you tell Josh Richardson, shoot it or drive it.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't worry about getting somebody else an open shot. If you get a catch and shoot it. If he closes out and you feel like you can attack it. Other than that, just go out there and have fun. Don't run a lot of pick and rolls for him.
Yeah.
Luka's going to have to carry the offense again.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying at the outset, like, the style of player is there. So just naturally, I think it fits and makes sense. But because he's not really like the caliber that I think is ideal, I don't know what exactly his impact is going to be offensively.
Yeah. And
like I think he fits, and he does make them marginally better, but I don't know if it's going to be like astronomically better than.
Well, I think it's definitely a huge improvement, in my opinion, at the shooting guard, because really you like having Tim Hardaway at the 3 because he's just a catch and shoot guy. So the shooting guard, you want to have a little bit more playmaker.
Yeah.
And really Seth would have been that guy
if he could stay healthy and play defense.
Yeah, and it's just he lacks athleticism and quickness. And what we're finding with Luka is you need to have quick, athletic guys that are playing next to him, because if you don't, then you have everybody is too slow. You can't guard anybody. And Josh Richardson is 6'6", but he's long and he plays smaller. He's really quick on defense.
Yeah, he's really and like offensively, he's crafty with the way that he gets shots. He's a 34% shooter. That's about the same whether it's a catch and shoot or a pull up. That's pretty much what he's shooting. But yeah, Jason made it clear in this interview
and that's from 3, correct?
Yeah. Sorry. He made it clear in this interview that, again, his biggest impact is going to be defensively. Like, he talked about what he can do offensively, but he was, again, he's like really where you're going to see the impact is on the defensive end. So just to give like context to the defense, because I do want to talk about what we've seen from watching the film, because we watched like a good 30 minutes of Josh Richardson film.
So we're experts
So
now.
we pretty much know what you need to know. But just to give, instead of just going by the eye test. So like, for example, his defensive box plus minus last year was a negative 0.4, which is good. You want negative defensively. And then if you look at his defensive stats in terms of the way that he affects shots, so overall, a player's shooting percentage dropped almost 3% when guarded by Josh Richardson. Players shot 42% against him. And then on 2-pointers, their shooting percentage dropped by 4.5%.
Okay.
So, I mean, he's definitely a good defender. And then we can talk about what we saw just from watching the film. But, I mean, the numbers show that he is a good defender and that he will be able to help on that end.
I like Josh Richardson's trade. I really do. I think his 3-point shooting percentage is going to go up a little bit, like it did with Tim Hardaway, just naturally because of the Mavericks system and because of the amount of wide open 3-point shots he's going to get with Luka. So I think that'll go up. But I think it's a really nice fit, and I like having Luka and Hardaway and Josh Richardson out on the court at the same time. Because it gives them a lot of athleticism, a lot of shooting, and then, only one guy's not good at defense, which is Hardaway. He's terrible. But
yeah.
So I like it. I like the trade very much.
Okay. All good points. I love the positivity.
I mean, it's not
like
Bradley Beal.
Yeah. I feel like Mavs Twitter would be proud of you for the positivity because they try to keep it really positive, which I think is admirable. But how do you really feel, or how do you feel about the way that just overall they got Josh Richardson, they got James Johnson, had to make a couple of trades to do that, and then they used their draft picks. Like, how would you grade it? How do you think things have gone so far?
I thought it started out well when they got Josh Richardson, and I was like, okay, here we go. We're doing something.
And then
even Mavs brass kept talking, we're not done yet, we're going to be very active, so they were just pumping us up, like they were gonna go get freaking.
They said that they wouldn't be surprised if there was another trade by the end of the night, which technically there was that the same night they got James Johnson,
early morning. I don't know, like I think it's just the history of the Mavs where they're constantly concerned about flexibility and cap space for next year. It's always next year.
Yeah.
And so they never go and get a guy, even if it's not a perfect fit, or even if you have to overpay him a little bit. They refuse to do that because they're constantly keeping the powder dry. They're keeping cap space flexibility for next year. And I think that's what these moves did. Now, they got better. I think James Johnson and Josh Richardson make the team better, defensively especially, and toughness, but it just wasn't what I wanted to see. Like, I felt like there were some guys out there that could drastically improve your roster and really go for it next year, but didn't happen.
They don't sign long-term deals, and that's frustrating because the good guys, you have to sign them to long-term deals. Like, some of the guys that we had talked about, Danilo Gallinari, obviously that's going to be a long-term deal. Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's still available at this point at least, that's a long-term deal. And because they don't sign long-term deals, that eliminates like 90% of the players available and all of the good players available.
Yeah, well, and I know people are going to be like, well, they don't have cap space. Cap space is a load of crap.
It's a figment of our imagination.
Yes.
Like, look at the past. The Warriors got Kevin Durant with no cap space. The Heat got Jimmy Butler with no cap space. The Lakers were able to get Anthony Davis. I mean, it's just...
Of course, that wasn't a signing, but still,
true,
you get the point.
If you want a guy and he wants to come here, you can make it
happen.
work. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think that you need to do the cap space thing.
No, there's okay. So this is where I love advanced analytics, but I think they take it too far, and it scares them away from certain players.
They overvalue
good players. I don't know.
Ungood players.
They overvalue players that aren't very good because they're cheap,
players.
but advanced wise, they give a positive in the win column. But guys that are actually good, that actually can put the ball in the basket on a regular basis
and score the points,
which actually matter. But the point is, you got to have assets to get assets. And so get as many assets as you can. And then if it doesn't fit, you can use those assets to get players in that fit your team.
Yeah, it's like with these deals that they made. So Josh Richardson, this is the final year of his deal. He has a player option after that, so possibly
he'll probably
an expiring
opt
deal.
out.
Yeah. James Johnson is an expiring contract. Obviously, Tim Hardaway, keeping him, that's an expiring deal. So they have like 2 max caps, or potentially a lot of cap space next summer. And so I feel like they were able to make moves to get a little bit better, but their priority was to keep cap space. And then if they could get some players that made them a little better, that was okay. But the priority was cap space.
Yes.
And I think the priority should be winning, like whatever it takes every year. And when you prioritize next summer...
Yes, but you're going to have the other side of the argument that says, well, you got to be patient. Luka's only 21 years old. Porzingis is only 25. That is not a good strategy. You cannot be patient in the NBA because you don't know what's going to happen.
Not in today's NBA.
No,
not with
players
the way
come and go
are,
like crazy. So you can't be patient. Go out there and try to win every year. My only problem is with the whole cap space. What are they waiting for? Who are they looking for?
Yeah.
Like, is it only Giannis? Because you're not going to get Giannis, okay? You're not going to get him. What part of your history shows that Giannis is going to come to Dallas? I guess you have Luka. Okay, maybe he'll look at Dallas and give us an interview.
Maybe.
Whatever.
But there's also the Heat and the Lakers and the Warriors.
The guy you're looking for, the franchise player, the superstar, you already have him. So who are you looking for? The guy that you have? It's like, dude, stop looking over there.
Yeah.
He's right there on your team. He wears number 77.
Yeah.
So bring in guys that are going to fit him. And if you got to pay, you got to pay. And if it doesn't fit, you have a good player that you can trade for somebody else.
Yeah, it's like, it's just, we've been talking about this all day and trying to figure out how exactly we feel about it, because I think, like you mentioned, how they don't have cap space. And like, that is a reality, right? Like, once Hardaway opted in, they didn't have any cap space. And so it's like, well, they couldn't really sign anybody. But at the same time, I feel like you could get creative to sign some guys, whether you had to do a sign-in trade or just dump some contracts or whatever. You could have gotten guys that would make a bigger impact than the ones that they got. And that's my problem with prioritizing cap space over winning. I think you got to prioritize winning over cap space. That's, you got your priorities out of whack.
If a player wants to come to Dallas and you want him, you can make it happen regardless of how much cap space. Just look at the history of the league. It happens every single year. So keeping cap space is dumb. Like, if you had no cap space next summer,
you could still make
But
moves.
Giannis wanted to come to Dallas. Guess what? He's coming to Dallas.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's my point. Like, it's not that it's, whether it's a dumb plan or not, I feel like could be a matter of opinion. But I think an even better argument is that it's unnecessary. Mm-hmm. It's unnecessary to preserve cap space because you don't need that to make moves. You can always make moves and sign guys if they really want to come here. So I think it's unnecessary. And it's not like it's a no risk thing. Like, you are still hurting the team because you're not willing to bring in players that could help you win a championship this year. And whatever, Luka's 21. I don't care. Let's win a championship when he's 21.
He doesn't play
Who cares
like he's
how
21.
old he is? Like,
yeah.
can we not win because he's too young? Why not try to win when he's this age?
Did he look 21 going against the Clippers?
Yeah, but I mean, like, regardless, like, why not?
Yeah.
What if he were 24? So then you think the Mavs are automatically going to change their plan when he's 24?
They're going
to be doing the same exact thing. I know we talk about this all the time.
But you don't want to pay Danilo Gallinari $20 million a year.
Because he's 27.
No, he's he's a very old 32 years old. And that's another thing with this whole age thing. Like all of a sudden when you're 27 years old, it's too old. You're getting up there in years. And it's like, come on, like for the most part, a player really starts to decline when they're like 34, 35 years old.
I would say 33.
No, 33 was Dirk's best year. He won the championship at 33.
But he was still, I think that's when it started. He wasn't him. I mean, not that he wasn't himself, but he wasn't like young Dirk. The way that he played.
No, he was a veteran and he was savvy and he was in his prime. And so, no, it's about 34, 35 for most players. So 31, 32, you still have
28.
Yeah, 28. It's like, so old. It's like, I don't know. And I get the Gallinari thing at power forward for the Mavs would have been a defensive nightmare. I understand that. That's not the point. The point is you got to get players in here.
Yeah.
Let's say you did a sign and trade for Gallinari and you did a sign and trade for another quality player.
Bogdanovich.
And it wasn't working out defensively, but now you have two really strong trade assets to maybe a contender in the East that you don't have to worry about. And they're like, maybe it's Boston and they're done with Jaylen Brown. Something happened and Brown wants out. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, here's Gallinari and Bogdanovich. Why don't you give us Jaylen Brown? That's how it works. And all these other teams, that's what they're doing.
What they're gonna do.
And that's how they keep getting. That's how the Lakers keep getting good players. And that's how Milwaukee was able to trade for Drew Holiday because they're signing good players that can be used in trades. Now, yes, they gave away 3 picks. The point is you got to have assets.
So it's like, I know we talk about it every summer and maybe it either gets old to hear it or it gets old to be a part of it, but it's just they did get better. And I like Josh Richardson. I like what he brings. He's not the second star that we were looking for, but he is a little bit better. James Johnson, he's in like Taekwondo or something. I get it. It's great. He's the enforcer. But the reason they got those guys
is because it maintains
contracts. Their cap flexibility.
Yes.
And that's what bothers me. And that's what I mean. It bothers me that they don't even give them a chance to win a championship because they want to keep their max cap space. And it bothers me that that's their priority because I don't think that's the way it should be done.
No, it should.
And if I were in charge,
I don't get it. And you know, whatever, like they're going to be better. Now, I think their starting lineup should include our new guys that we got.
And James Johnson.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the starting lineup should be Luka, Josh Richardson at the 2, Hardaway at the 3, James Johnson at the 4, and Porzingis at the 5.
James Johnson has traditionally come off the bench. Well, yeah, in his career.
The thing is, with all due respect, he's just better than Dorian. He just is. Like
numbers wise,
okay.
Debatable.
Dorian is a nice player, and I'm not saying James Johnson is a huge step ahead, but one thing that you need for Porzingis is there's a certain type of power forward that you got to get. In my personal opinion, the best prototypical power forward to have next to Porzingis would be Aaron Gordon. Because you have the size at 6'10", but he plays like a guard, both offensively and defensively.
I mean, kind of like Dwight Powell, just...
Oh, God, no.
Better.
No.
Well, but
Dwight
style,
doesn't play... Dwight plays big.
And, okay.
You need a guy that can guard wings and guard and still play the 4. Okay. So he's still big, but he plays small.
Okay.
So he's strong, he's big, but he can... When he gets switched on to LeBron... Or
kind
on
of like
whatever.
Maxey.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Like
just like Maxey, but someone that's a little bit stronger and better.
Yeah.
So Maxey would be a perfect fit next to him.
I mean, it's the same thing with Josh Richardson. Like, yeah, the type is there. It's just the skill level. You know, the talent level is not.
Yeah.
Not
like Oladipo, I think Oladipo when he was good would have been a perfect shooting guard. Yeah. So. But I think the starting lineup should be that because I think it gives you toughness and size. Another thing the Mavericks lack right now is size. I know Porzingis is 7'3", but he's a pencil. So you need to have a little bit of muscle and Dwight Powell gets moved around like he's a dried
he
bush in the
struggles on
desert
defense.
that's blown in the wind.
Tumbleweed.
Yeah, tumbleweed. Thank you.
Dry bush.
Dried bush.
Yeah. So it would be Luka, Josh Richardson, Hardaway, James Johnson, Kristaps.
Mm-hmm.
Except for to start the season because Kristaps will be out.
You'll have Dwight Powell.
Yeah, if he's back.
He should be back.
Yeah, he should be back. I mean, and Josh Richardson defensively, again, I mean, he's good. He stays in front of his man. He's he makes defensive plays that
surprise you.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Yeah.
And I think it's a combination of athleticism and long arms.
And instincts.
Like
sometimes he knows where the offensive player is going
his
before he gets there.
And instincts, his footwork, he's able to stay with his man really well. I mean, I think he's going to help a lot defensively.
Another thing about James Johnson is his strength. And one problem with Dorian is he just gets pushed around.
He is a little thinner.
He gets moved around too much.
He's a smaller framed guy.
And he can't guard LeBron and Kawhi because they just outmuscle him.
Yeah.
And James Johnson's got the strength.
He's bigger.
Yeah, he doesn't get pushed aside or gets pushed around. So I think that's another reason why he should be starting. But, Carlisle loves him some Dorian.
Yeah, I mean, I like Dorian too, but obviously, anytime you're not a championship team, that means that you can improve in every area, to varying degrees in each area, but just in every area. So, yeah, I mean, they got to improve somewhere, obviously, because they didn't win a ring last year.
Dorian on the Lakers wouldn't even play. Or on the Clippers, he wouldn't even get off the bench. He would be the 15th man. So that's the kind of talent that you need on your team to win, and that's what the Mavericks value Dorian as the 5th starter on a championship team, whereas every other championship team is like, we would cut him.
Yeah, they do put weird values which I mean, I like Dorian. I
do too.
Yeah,
I want him on the team.
And I love Maxey. Seth, I loved. I mean, I really
but you
like
gotta
all
make
these
sacrifices
guys.
to win.
It's tough. It's hard to say. You'd have to get to trade Dorian, or I don't know. It would hurt.
Nobody wants Dorian.
But also, if it makes you better, it's like, well,
yes.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and it's but that's the thing. Nobody wants Dorian. So you're like, hey, we'll give you Dorian for Bogdan. Who?
I don't know if he's built a reputation yet of
because
being
he's not a good
lockdown
player.
defender.
He's like Tony Snell out there. Now the team that has Tony Snell is like, hey, we really like Tony Snell, but everybody else is like that guy that. I don't even know what to say about him. That guy on your team, oh, that's Tony Snell. I didn't know that. I've heard the name before.
So I don't know. I mean, again, I know that we complain about free agency every year, but it's just because the same thing happens every year.
Well, and that's just where I'm trying to balance.
I'm trying to be realistic.
Yes.
Again, they did not have cap space. That is a reality.
But it's not a load of crap.
It's not like they could just sign whoever. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they could.
The Bucks were going to sign Bogdan Bogdanović in a sign and trade for a guy that they later just waived.
Yeah.
So if the Mavericks wanted Bogdan Bogdanović, they could offer the Kings Trey Burke or Dorian or whatever, any of these dudes that are never going to play and get them.
Worked. Well, they could still do
that.
And
still do it. Another thing, the whole Trey Burke thing. I really like Trey Burke. I really like what he did. But did you have to rush and use your cap space to sign him? It's not like he had a line out the door waiting to... He wasn't even on a team when you picked him up.
Marty,
if you didn't pick him up, it hasn't been recorded.
We have breaking news.
Okay.
The Mavs are closing in on a deal with free agent wing Wesley Iwundu. I feel like you just died inside.
Well, who? Gosh.
Judging by the picture, he used to play for the Magic. Let me fire up. What's this called? Basketball Reference. Wesley Iwundu. He's a 2-year player. Played for the Magic. 3-year player. Played for the Magic for 3 years. He played 18 minutes. He's a small forward. averaged 18 minutes a game last year and about 5.8 points and 2.5 rebounds, 34% shooter.
Well, they said they weren't done yet. They were going to be aggressive, and they're showing it. Their aggression. They're signing a bunch of guys that can't play.
Anyways, what were you saying about?
I was going on a rant. The Trey Burke,
oh yeah,
did you have to rush into coming to a deal with him?
I really like Trey Burke, and I definitely wanted to keep him, but it just sucks that they had to use some of their mid-level.
Yeah, and it's like you didn't have to. You could have just waited.
Yeah.
Sign somebody else and then bring him back on the veterans minimum.
Yeah.
Which you can do regardless of your cap space. It's like nobody else was going to sign him. Yeah. If you did not pick him up, he would have been done. His career was over. He'd been playing in Europe next year.
Yeah.
So why you were like, sign him. Like he was going to get picked up by another team.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous. Why not just wait?
What do you think's going on with the Paul Millsap thing? Are we going to talk about that? How his jersey leaked on the NBA store, which is run by Fanatics.com, which is a business. So it's not I know it's on NBAstore.com, but that's not actually run by the NBA. So it's not like some sort of rumor or paperwork or whatever got leaked or something. Fanatics.com is just a whole other business. And somehow they knew to put this jersey online. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if maybe it leaked and then the Mavs were like, crap, if we sign him, we'll get investigated for tampering. I don't know. Maybe it is just that, but that's just weird. Do you think they're still going to get him?
I don't know. We're too busy signing Uwandu.
Did the Wesley Uwandu news kill you?
Well, you got me all hyped up. You were like, the Mavericks are closing in on a deal for wing. At first, I thought you were going to say Wesley Matthews, and I was going to be like...
He signed with the Lakers.
I know, but then I was like, okay, no. But yeah, I thought you were going to say something about Bogdanovich, but
maybe, yeah.
You know what? The advanced numbers show that Uwandu is a winning player, and he can't even play more than 15 minutes on the Magic, so he's definitely going to help our team.
Defensive box plus minus, he was 0, literally.
He's not gonna.
He's probably not gonna play.
Impact.
It's probably for depth or something. Yeah.
Because we need some depth on the bigs, though.
Yeah.
We got a guy coming off a torn Achilles. We have another guy who can't keep his knees.
Well, then Maxey
can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Once he plays more than 20 games, he needs to rest about 10 games just to recuperate.
Yeah, I am. It's I'm trying to be realistic, also acknowledge what the Mavs did, but then there's the other part of me that is still bothered. Realistically, again, they didn't have cap space. They would have had to get really creative,
which is so simple to do. Not even that creative.
But I'm not done yet.
Okay.
So they didn't have cap space. They would have had to get really creative, and maybe even then those players, maybe they offered those players a contract and they just weren't interested. Okay, so there's that. There's the other part of that. They did actually, Josh Richardson is a good addition. James Johnson is a good addition. Now, I'm not going to get super high on these guys because they might not even be here next year. And look, DeLon Wright and Justin Jackson, we tried to, Mavs tried to spin that as these guys are whatever. And then they just dumped them this offseason. So I'm not super high on what's going on, but they did, and I get it. You know what? Those are good moves. Josh Richardson, I think, is a good move. So there's also that I'm trying to acknowledge. But I'm just, I am still bothered that we still prioritize cap space. I just don't think that's the right way to build a team. And I'm not saying do anything stupid. I'm not saying you sign Nick Batum to $30 million a year or some of these crazy deals.
I'm talking about players that
actually
can play.
Yeah, but I'm saying, guys that are available. Good deals. Try to make those moves, and I feel like even those smart moves.
The Mavs signed Dwight Powell for $10 million a year. He probably didn't have another offer out there. They could have got him for $5 million.
They do value their evaluation is weird. It's weird, yeah. I think, one thing I said earlier today is, how do you expect the players to go all out when you don't go all out. Like, when this is the product that you put out there, when this is the roster that you give Luka, why would you expect him? How can you expect them to fight whenever you're not giving it all you've got?
Yeah, now maybe
you haven't given them a chance to win a championship. Why would they?
Who knows?
Why would they lay it all out there when you haven't given them a legitimate chance?
Who knows? Maybe they feel like Luka and Porzingis are good enough to win a championship, so they're just trying to get some quality guys, veterans, some really good role players around them.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
maybe that's what
James Johnson was.
Maybe these guys just happen to all have expiring contracts,
And it was just a coincidence.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that, but it's like they're going to continue to try to sign a franchise guy, and it's like he already plays for you.
Yeah. Good talk.
You drained all my energy with your breaking
Wesley,
news of
sorry.
Owandu, and
I'm
I'm
sorry.
like, you know what? Screw it all.
You'll be fine. Okay. That's all we have to say. Great positivity there. Great show.
At least we have Luka. Gives us something to look forward to each year.
Yeah.
Until he leaves to the Lakers.
Okay, so my final thing I'll say is they did make good moves. I think Josh Richardson. I'm okay with everything that they did. I'm just bothered by the things that they didn't do that I feel like were within their reach without being.
I still think
Bogdanovich. He's still within their reach. All right, that's all we have to say. Feel free to share your comments. Again, we post these on YouTube, so share your comments there. Whatever you want to say, whether you agree or disagree, I want to hear all of it. Or on Twitter, again, I'm at _Sydney Myers or at Dallas Hoops Cast. You can also leave a comment on the website when you if you listen to this on the website, there's a comment section. But let us know how you feel about it. Quick prediction for next season. How many games are they gonna win? Remember, it's only 72 game season.
65.
That's a lot.
Yeah, Luka wins MVP.
Okay.
And Porzingis wins
I feel like you
co-MVP.
need a nap or something. I don't know what my prediction is.
I don't know either.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do that once we get close to the season and we kind of learn more about this. Thank you guys so much for listening. Wherever you're listening, feel free to like and this isn't YouTube. Like, subscribe, give it something. Rating. That's what I was going to say. Leave a review if you like the show. But thanks guys for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.